Okay, this is a bit of a digression from the book. We are talking a lot about various carbon footprints, waste, recycling, reducing carbon footprints, and so on. So I decided to add a few points from a very nice article from this outlet called The Conversation, which is actually one of the good online media that offers very good articles. There are a handful of them. So this article refers to various other articles like this one from The Guardian, where we see in 2020 or 2019, I think, world's consumption of material hits record 100 billion tons a year. Unsustainable use of resources is wrecking the planet, but recycling is falling, report finds. So this is sad news. People like Herman Daly, economist, had worked a lot, I think he passed away recently, on how we should think of sustainability by starting with the understanding that we live within the environment, because people often write sustainability as environment, society, economies, and then there is a Venn diagram with the intersection, whereas if you realize that environment is the outer envelope, then the thinking can change. So this numbers here from 2019, world consumes 100.6 billion tons of materials per year, so we are digging up minerals, ores, fossil fuels, crops and trees, which makes these things: housing, communication, transport, healthcare, services, consumer goods, and food. Just think of these as the most dominant conversions. This is the irreversible conversion of natural resources into junk on most occasions. Very few things can be completely recycled. Out of these things that are made, most of it is wasted. 31% of buildings and infrastructure, 14.6% as emissions, 22.4% loss to the environment, which means you cannot bring it back, and 32.6% is refuse. And overall, just 8.6% is recycled. So 7.4% of the mining, 4.4% of the unregistered waste, and 11.2% of the landfill. So the recycling hopefully goes back into these things. So already there is bad news. The good news may be, even though it's not going fast enough, is that landfills have fallen, containing food, organics, glass, paper and card, metals, plastics, textiles, waste from electronics and electrical equipment, and energy from waste has gone up in the meantime from these things over this decade. So obviously a long way to go in terms of complete conversions, but this leads to ideas of looking carefully at where the recycling is not being done properly. So there are lots of reports showing that the food production should be able to feed all the people in the world, but market economics, supply, waste and so on actually still create lots of starvation, even in some rich countries, surprisingly. So you can see that food recycling is way down here at 10%, and some are doing better. For example, here electronic and electrical equipment and glass are doing pretty well, not 100%, but quite up there, close to 80%. Not yet 80%. This is paper and card, which has fallen for whatever reason. Metals have gone up. So there are lots of other issues associated with even with these. For example, pollution from trying to recycle those and extracting the precious metals that are in the waste from electrical and electronic equipment and so on. And of course landfills and methane, etc. So the idea is being proposed as a sustainable circular economy in which production and consumption are optimized and embedded in the natural environment. So that goes towards Herman Daly's original ideas. He has written a lot on these topics, which are really worth reading, even how to structure the salaries so that we keep a limit on consumption, or incentivize reduced consumption, I suppose. So minimize resource input from natural reserves and regenerate the environment. Production consumption system must optimize environmental, social, material and economic values and maximize waste prevention. This is a very nice idea, but how to implement it? These are called truisms or motherhood statements, kind of like ecosystem-based management, which has been used a lot, where you can think of fisheries, for example. When we want tuna, we only catch tuna and we don't worry about what happens to the food web that was supporting tuna. Then you have all kinds of unintended cascades. It's called Fishing Down the Food Web by Daniel Pauly and so on. So there are many ideas of why we should manage tuna as a part of the ecosystem in which it lives. But how do you actually do it? That's not very easy. And the same goes here. These are easy to say, but you can look at another way to look at it, look at another way to think about it. A transition towards an increasingly sustainable circular economy radically changes the purpose of the economy. So individual sectors like bottled water or agriculture and so on, there are circular economy ideas being applied in specific life cycle kind of things. Whether they will add up to circular economy for the whole sector, whole economies, let's say, is not so obvious right now. So if you go from energy from waste to recycling to sustainable circularity, then you go from unsustainable to weak sustainability and strong sustainability. Economic growth goes to multidimensional progress. Many interesting books have been written here, including Herman Daly, on how to think about Herman Daly, yes. How to think about economic growth versus economic development, or multidimensional progress. Those are interesting ideas as well. Growing social inequality can be made more equitable and just. Environmental degradation can be turned into regenerating natural capital. Wasteful, resource intensive production systems can be converted to eco-efficient and eco-effective systems. Again, true, but how to implement? That's the question. Another idea proposed by Kate Raworth's illustration of the donut economics and how physical and social needs of society must be considered together. So it has this hole in the middle, like a donut shape, where the social foundation for food, water, income, education, resilience, voice, jobs, energy, social equity, gender equality, and health should be considerations. And within the environmental ceiling, you have to work for the safe and just space for humanity. There are other ideas like planetary boundaries. Again, implementation is the key. For example, you can set metrics in nitrogen cycle, carbon cycle, and say we are heading towards the limit, or that we have crossed the limit, let's say in biodiversity loss and so on. But how to translate that into action, specifically region-specific local actions? That's not so obvious. Inclusive and sustainable economic development, and on the outer edge you have the environmental ceiling provided by climate change, or being set by climate change, novel entities, stratospheric ozone depletion, atmospheric aerosol loading, ocean acidification, biogeochemical flows. The perturbations to nitrogen cycle, for example, is a serious issue because of fertilizer use, freshwater use, land system change, and biosphere integrity. when you look at these intuitively, they make sense, but again, keep in mind it's always about bringing about action, agreeing to work on this common goods. That's not at all easy. So one of the ideas we considered was decarbonization. So anything we can do to decarbonize the whole system and get away from this carbon fractal or the carbon trap we are trapped in, carbon trap, trapped in. So just keep these ideas in mind. So you can think of carbon footprints, but also broadly, where is your biggest waste and where you are not recycling as best as you can, and what are you buying? Are you considering recyclability of things when you buy things, etc.? So I just added these in the middle of the book because this somehow seemed to fit here, and I'll add another couple of these away from the book along the way. Okay.